An old steamship in poor mechanical condition, part 11, an internal modification to the radio control transmitter, testing the functionality of the servos and a live steam test to make sure that everything works as it should. What I'm now doing is plugging in some of the other servos to see what's what. I need one for the regulator, one for the forward and reverse gear, and one for the rudder. And this is not a good start. That is not the one I want for the regulator. That's the regulator one, the one on the right hand side, which is normally set as the throttle, depending on which mode the transmitter is set to. You could use the left hand side one, but I prefer the throttle to be on the right, so what I'm going to do is remove the spring on the left hand gimbal. This means that it will not centre. The left hand gimbal will go up and down. It will centre left to right, which is what we need for the rudder. It would be no good if you just had that slopping about everywhere. But as I've now decided that I'm going to use the left up and down gimbal to control the forward and reverse of the engine, I was originally going to use the switch, but I thought no, that is far better for the gas valve. So I have throttle on the right, that's right to the bottom, right to the top, and then forward on the left to the top, reverse on the left to the bottom. So when sailing the boat, you just keep the rudder stick at the top. Unless, of course, you want the boat to go backwards, then you would put the rudder stick at the bottom. I could really have left the spring in, but that would mean holding your finger against the spring whenever you're sailing the boat, and I've tried this in the past, and it is really annoying. Once you remove this small spring from the gimbal, make sure you don't lose it, and the best thing to do is to tape it inside the case. This is masking tape, and it won't go anywhere in there. So now I can put the transmitter back together, and then quickly have a look at this gadget. This is called a volt watch, and it tells you the state of your battery. At the moment this battery is not brilliant, it needs charging really. It will tell me whether I should sail it or not. If it sits there with no load on the battery, it should give a green light saying perfect. If I hold on to the servo, therefore stalling the servo, there will be an excessive current drain on the battery, and this volt watch gadget indicates that. As you can see, there it goes into the red when I stall the servo. At the moment, the gas valve servo is connected to the left-hand vertical gimbal. This is for demonstration purposes because it's very easy to see the gas valve moving. This is a regulator one moving, the long arm is for the regulator, and on the right-hand stick it's only throttle up and down. The left to right on this stick has no function. So here's the final arrangement, the left-hand stick up and down, forward and reverse of the engine, with the smaller arm on the servo, nothing on the left or right of the right-hand side, and up and down operates the regulator, and the switch at the top kills the gas. It's either on or off. And that's it for the start of the radio installation. Since the last episode, I've done quite a bit of work to the boat. As you can see, all the handrails and the stanchions are in place round the stern, and the handrails seem to match in with the rest of the handrails on the boat, so it looks okay. It is time now to do a steam test. I've not had the engine in steam at all. It's run on compressed air many times. I've had the boiler in steam in a previous test if you've been watching the series, but now it's time to do it for real, to just make sure everything works. And the first thing to do is to put some heat insulation between the burner and the gas tank, and this is to prevent the burner from actually touching the gas tank in the boat. Irrespective of the type of radio control unit you're using, you must always turn the transmitter on first, followed by the receiver, and I'm doing this at the moment. The next step is to check the range of the radio equipment. It's no good if the boat sails into the middle of the lake and disappears. Here you see the rudder moving back and forth, and currently I am sat right at the bottom of the garden, and that's about 86 feet away. My initial fear was that if I put the radio receiver inside the metal boat, which is really a Faraday cage, it wouldn't work at all. But the arrangement of the receiver in the small wooden box at the stern of the boat seems to be successful. With the radio reception confirmed, it's now time to oil up the engine. For this I'm using steam oil on all the bearing surfaces. I generally do this on small engines because they do really get quite hot. And now I can throw the switch on the transmitter, which allows gas through to the burner. I'm quite keen to see whether the engine runs, so as soon as I get a tiny little bit of pressure, like 20 psi, I open the regulator and the engine runs. And once we have some good pressure in the boiler, the engine runs really well, So well in fact that I left the engine running for quite a while, far longer than you see here on the video, and I kept switching between forward and reverse, and there was no problem at all. It did just what I asked it to do. I would like to think that the owner of the boat won't do this because it's not a good idea. I'm doing it to test the engine and it passes with flying colours. So I watched the engine run for quite a while, and I noticed that the exhaust note is pretty good as well. It's time now to fit the safety valve cover, because I want the safety valve to blow off through this small pipe. I actually dropped the working pressure of the boiler down to 75 psi from about 80, and it blows off fine, and the pressure reduces. Here you can see the propeller spinning, first fast and now very, very slow indeed. I took some time to try and get the alignment as near as possible with the existing prop shaft, and here you can see the propeller spinning quite sweetly, and it's really not running on much pressure at all. The regulator's nearly shut. I ran the boat for about an hour on the bench, but I didn't want to get the hull too warm, so I threw the switch which switched the gas off, and now I have to drain the exhaust condenser. This is done by opening this small valve, and that lets the water out. By running the engine, the exhaust back pressure actually pumps the water out into a suitable receptacle. And the last thing to do is to disconnect the gas tank. It's absolutely essential not to rely on the small radio-controlled valve to keep the gas off. The gas tap needs removing entirely from the gas tank, as you can see here. Then it's quite safe. Whenever the engine has been run on steam, it is absolutely essential that you remove the water residue from within the engine, particularly if it's a cast iron cylinder engine like this Stewart 1010. The top of this Stewart displacement lubricator is threaded 5/16 by 32 threads per inch, so I quickly made a small adapter to allow me to connect a piece of silicone rubber pipe, which allows me to pipe some compressed air into the engine, which first of all blows away the water. Then I introduce some steam oil to the pipe and I blow this through the engine, and this gets rid of the water, and I've never had any problems by doing it this way. I am a little concerned about the weight of this boat because everything on it is metal, the superstructure and the hull, but I think it'll be okay. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.